Saying good morning to our listeners, those of you via Classic Radio, good morning, and welcome to another edition of To The Point for today. It's been Tuesday, the 27th day of June, 2023. Let's say good morning also to our viewers via GBN TV, whether you're joining Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channels 20. Good morning to you and welcome. Our social media audience, those of you via our Facebook page, good morning. The YouTube channels, those of you via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd, good morning and welcome. Tuesdays on To The Point is usually the day that we invite, of course, members of the opposition party to, of course, come on and, of course, share their views and concerns. And this morning we do have, of course, the General Secretary of the New National Party. That's Mr. Roland Bhola with us this morning. He's also the former Minister of Agriculture, if I'm right about that, when he was part of the how can I describe it? When he was into the active politics, if I could put that. Mr. Bhola, good morning, and how you doing, sir? Good morning.
Good morning to you, GT. Good morning to your listeners. Good morning to the staff of GBN.
Yes,
as you said, those on social media, those looking at us via television or just listening to Classic.
Yeah. Good morning. I mean, it's nice to meet you, sir. I think it's actually the first time I've ever meeting you in person. Actually, it's the
Could well be.
I think it is the first time.
It's definitely not my first time in this studio.
Not the first time at GBN, of course
Yes.
not. But first time meeting you in person.
Yes.
And happy to have you on the program this morning. How you doing, sir? How you doing?
I put it this way, I've had better days than today, but of course I'm grateful I have life.
Yes.
I woke up this morning, to a wonderful morning. In the last couple of weeks we've been having really good heat, but this morning there was some rain. And,
a little thunder and so forth.
In the early hours of this morning, a couple of lightning flash, and so kind of bring back memories of yesteryear when you really got good rain season. When we had two seasons then.
Yes.
The wet season, the dry season.
Kind of a mix now, eh? You're not sure what we have.
I'm not sure what we have.
A couple of weeks ago it was all cold and you're waking up all in the morning time period was all cold. Now it's hot most of the day for weeks of a time, and now we get in the rain. So anyhow we got to be grateful. We got to be grateful. Now in the heat of our conversation this morning, as we get things rolling off this morning, I want to ask you this question up front. 1 year later after the general elections, what is it like with the NMP? One year later?
Extremely good question. 1 year later, we are still putting things back together. The NNP had a history of being a winning party, and I think that history probably got into many of us and we became complacent. We felt that two back-to-back 15-0, 2013, 2018. I mean, who can beat NNP? No one could. Well, I mean, it was not necessarily a rude awakening for most of us, because those of us who understand politics, we would have understood how fluid politics is. It's not a thing that is static. It doesn't stay one way, because you're dealing with human beings and people change as time goes by. The preferences become different. The things they needed yesterday are not the same things they need today, and so they make decisions sometimes at the spur of the moment. But in terms of what we're doing, we're trying to regroup, we're recouping, we're trying to rebuild the structure of the party, as the constitution of the party says, building from the ground up, putting our party groups in place, ensuring that our constituency branches are okay, and moving forward to a big question that is being asked all the time, preparing to go to a convention.
All right. Moving forward, what's the way forward for the NMP?
A number of things. We have had, since election to now, we have had retreats. We have looked critically at what may have been the cause or causes for our loss at the polls. What should we have done differently? What we must do now, and how we should approach the future. We had even gone as far as bringing in some foreign input, people to look at the NNP, look at the structure, look at our life since NNP has started in 1984 to present, and the days when we won all the seats. What did we do then? How we operated in government, the changing times, because one of the things we found out is that the youthful population, whom we sometimes take for granted, believing that they don't know what they want or what they're about, they are now playing a much more significant role in terms of the political life of this country than probably 10, 15 years ago. So we have to model ourselves now to fit into that role as well.
Are we going to see in the not too distant future a new NNP? If I'm phrasing it properly.
a new NNP in some ways. Yes? I mean, I don't want to say a new NNP to make those who are part of NNP now and has been part of NNP and has been, in the fight and in the trenches working to see that the party move forward, to get the impression that you're no longer needed. They are needed. I mean, they are the foundation members. The party will not be able to graduate to where it wants to be without the assistance, without the advice, without the involvement of these people. But we need to bring in new blood. We need to infuse new and youthful, people, people with technical knowledge, people who are academically brilliant, and so it's going to be an NNP of a greater mixed. Yes, the golden-haired ones, the younger ones, and those in between, those who have some experience, those who have some knowledge. Because if we go all youth, new people, we're seeing some of what is happening to the present administration. They went with a youthful forum. They spoke to people that we're young, and that's what we want. And of course, people bought into to that. Now we're hearing some people saying, "Boy, these people are young and inexperienced. They don't know what they're about." We have always sort of gone for a mix, because within the NNP, for the last election, when you look at the candidates, we did have a mix, probably most in the senior area than juniors, but we did have a mix. But we probably think that we should have a greater mix, almost equal down the middle of seniors and juniors.
All right, interesting. I just to go back a wee bit in something that you mentioned in the initial question I asked you. Talk about complacency. May have been one of the contributing factors in terms of the NNP losing power. How are you trying? How does NNP plan to fix that? Just for some figment of imagination that you back into power again. Will we see that kind of going forward again? Completely?
Well, even to get back into office, we must fix that issue of complacency, and it's something that can slip in easily and sometimes unconsciously. Yeah? You are, at one time, let's just use West Indies cricket as an example. At one time, we felt in the West Indies that we were almost invincible. There was not a team. England came to the West Indies. We gave them what they call a whitewash. Everything. Test, won everything we wanted. We went into England and did the same thing to them. They call that the blackwash, And we were beating Australia. We were best. We were number one in the world. And look at West Indies today. Just yesterday or the day before, Netherlands put a trash in on us. Yes. In the same way, West Indies 50 over game, trying to qualify for the World Cup. 374 thereabout runs being scored. West Indies batting first. And they felt there's no way Netherlands could ever make that kind of runs to win. So I'm using that to equate how some of our people felt after a while.
Yes.
That we no one could test the NNP. As a matter of fact, there was a song that was made that we've used for many years. Nobody could beat the NNP. I don't know if you know that song, if you ever heard it.
I think I've heard it.
Yes, NNP is the party for we. So unconsciously, in the minds of a lot of people, there was not an alternative. Nobody could really beat us. We were there, 15 seats, 3 times in the parliament. From I think 8 or so elections that we contested, or 9 elections, we have won 6. As a matter of fact, the very, very first NNP in 1984, under the leadership of Sir Herbert Blaise, won 14 seats. Yes. The only seat that they did not win was from the constituency where I'm from in 1984. St. Andrews North East was won by Mr. Marcel Peters for the GOLP, and the 14 others were NNP. And then under the leadership of Dr. Mitchell, not consecutive, but on 3 separate occasions, there were 2 consecutive. 1999, 2013, and 2018, you won all the seats in Parliament. Who wouldn't feel, that we're the boss? No one could take this thing from us. But I believe every system has its weakness, and NNP has its weaknesses. So we've been looking at our weakness. We have been looking at where we went wrong. We've been looking at the changes that we need to make. We've been looking at the way we select our candidates and what was the role and functionality of those candidates, and whether they're living up to it or they need to have improvement. We are doing some training at the moment. We're looking at our field workers. There's so many things and so many areas that we took for granted that we have realized. Even our social media presence as a party, we recognize that we were almost zero in terms of social media, and that is where the young people are. That's where you reach them. The traditional way of having big rallies, people come for the line, but not necessarily to listen. People come for the culture, but not necessarily the speeches. So you have to meet them where they are.
Yes.
And so we are making those changes as we go along.
Right, interesting. Another question I've noticed that there's been a lot of constituency meetings lately in terms of where you, Dr. Mitchell, yourself, and other representatives have been different constituency going around the island for the last couple of weeks. How are these meetings, and tell us about it? What was the feedback like going through all 15? I know last Thursday you had the final one within the tongue of St. George and so forth. Give us a little feedback on that.
And that was the final one in the second round.
In the second round.
That's our second round. Immediately after the election, we did a similar thing.
Okay.
Within weeks after we've lost, we gave people a couple of weeks to sort of, acclimatize themselves to the changes, and then we went around. Very good in the first round. Every constituency as well. Dr. Mitchell, as a political leader, took the initiative, and we go into different constituencies, the rep or whoever is leading the political work, because as you know, we did not win all of the constituencies,
yes.
So we don't have parliamentary rep in everyone. At that time, in the first round, we had 6. Now we actually has 5, and we know the reason why, so we don't have to get into that. And that one that you saw on Thursday was the last of the second round, and they are meaningful for us. We have always had that philosophy in NNP, that the best way to make policies and the best way to guide yourself as a political party is to get input from the people, and you can only do that by meeting them. No, it's always good to have these big meetings where you stand on a stage and you speak down to people, but you get more out of meeting them, in their own locality and giving them an opportunity to speak back to you. Yes? So we're going to raise the issues. We're going to talk about the economic and social problems that our country is facing. We're going to give scenarios of what we may have done if we were in office, and why we are different, why our philosophy is different to the ruling party. And then we give the people an opportunity to ask questions, or sometimes just to raise a concern, or probably even give an advice. We've been going. We have people who are doing the recordings, and there have been a lot of advice coming from our own people on the ground. The way they see it, from where they live, and what is happening.
How strong of a feedback has been from those feedbacks have been received?
Oh, really good, really good, and it gives you even greater insight as to the how people live these days. The cry and the concern. Yes, there are some people that have become accustomed to living in a particular way because they had certain privileges probably when the NNP was in office. Yes. I know these things are no more, so it's a little more difficult for them. But there are a lot of genuine concerns about the way people live now. I mean, you'd be surprised. For example, last Thursday there was this gentleman who has some disabilities, but I think he's an electrician. He got an opportunity while NNP was in office before to go study, and so he walked with 2 crutches, and so, and I mean, he gave an experience of trying to get some assistance through the CES program to further equip himself and to employ a couple of people to aid him in what he was doing. And he was totally turned down. They didn't even look at him. And then these things make you wonder and ask yourself, is that the way government is supposed to operate? And irrespective of what this gentleman's political agenda may be, or who he's following, his political following, he's definitely somebody that needs help from whichever government that is in office. And so those experiences, I mean, there was an experience that a lady gave when we went to Southeast St. George at the Monjalu school, Monjalu ISC, where she was actually pleading and begging the constituents to give a helping hand to some people. And she gave an example of an old man, which I don't really want to repeat now, but anyway, he was removed. He could be in his 80s, removed from the public assistance list, and he really had nothing to go by. I mean, I'm just reporting what she said. I mean, she met him a day struggling to reach to the Catholic Church, he said, to get some rice because he had nothing to eat, and she had to bring him back home and provide him with some groceries and so. So there are genuine cases, and let me just make that point quickly, because I know there are those who may want to call and say, well, it used to happen in NNP time too. I'm not saying no. I'm not defending NNP. I'm just saying that as a government, whichever government, there are some things that we need to open up a brighter eyes to. Yes, we do the things that are before us, but sometimes we need to look beyond, because there are some people that definitely suffers as a result of us not keeping our eyes widely open.
And they fall through the cracks.
They fall through the cracks.
Time from time, government after government, the same thing occurs.
The same thing happens.
Yes. We due for a break, Mr. Bhola. Let's take that break. We're coming right back. Once again, our viewers and listeners, stay with us. So it's To the Point for today, Tuesday. We're coming right back.
At the NIS, our team proudly works to support the evolving needs of Grenadians. We have made some changes to our operations and want to keep you informed. Firstly, we are happy to introduce the new unemployment benefit. This benefit will provide an insured person with 50% of his or her former income in the case of sudden unemployment. To support this benefit and other benefits we offer, it was necessary to increase the contribution rate. The contribution rate will increase gradually each year until it reaches 16% in 2031. As always, the contribution will be split between you and your employer. The pensionable age will also increase from 60 to 65 years. This increase will also be gradually reaching age 65 in 2029. Pensioners will continue to be eligible for a pension from age 60, but will receive a reduced payment. The NIS recognizes that the prices of basic customer goods are increasing globally. Therefore, we are happy to also increase the weekly minimum pension payment by 25%. Finally, we have adjusted our survivor's benefit payment to a percentage of the age pension minimum. Widows, widowers, and dependent parents will receive 100% or $58 weekly, while children will receive 50% or $29 weekly of the deceased's pension. We are here to make the transition to these new changes as clear and simple as possible. If you have any questions on how these changes impact you and your family, please contact our new informational hotline at 440-6647 or visit www.nisgrenada.org. Thank you for allowing us to be your social security provider.
Is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more, or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more. With Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Welcome back to our listeners and viewers to the point for today, Tuesday, the 27th of June, 2023. It's Opposition Tuesday, we call it here on To the Point. And with me this morning, Mr. Roland Bhola, representing the new National Party. Welcome back, Mr. Bhola. Welcome back.
Thank you.
My next question I want to lead to the present administration. Give us a synopsis from your point of view in terms of their 1 year anniversary that they're still in the celebratory mood of. Give us a bit of synopsis of that.
I can simply put it in that way to simplify it. On a grade of 1 to 10, I'll give the present administration a 5.
Yeah.
50%.
Reasons?
Yeah, and my reasons is I think they need to get credit for some of the programs that they have continued, programs that they have met. We oftentimes speak of government being a continuum, picking up from one into the next, especially for programs that are good and beneficial to the people of the country. However, though, I have not seen much new initiatives. I have not heard, well, I've heard talk about different things, but I have not actually seen those things materialize or getting into action or the preparation for them. 1 year is a long time, depending on where you look at it, but it's also a short time if in terms of implementing programs.
Some folks would say it's just a year.
Yeah, well, that's what some people say, but it's 1 year less that you have to fulfill on whatever promises that you made. As it goes by, and I oftentimes say to people from our side of the fence, we should always count it by days. Yes. Let's forget about 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. Let's calculate 365 by 5.
Yes.
And every day that goes, you subtract, so you have 1 day less. Because sometimes time look as though it's eternal for you. And when you turn around again, you realize that half of it is gone or 3/4 is gone, and you start saying, what did I do? So we need to make, to get value out of every hour, every minute, every day. Yes? And in my opinion, I believe that first year for the present administration was one of greater victimization and destruction than one of actually trying to put things. And I do understand that as a new administration, there are certain positions within the service, within government that are sensitive, and positions that you may think as a new administration that if a particular person was holding that post or position under a previous administration may be destructive, because it's very sensitive, and you probably do not want them to help you guide and to lead those programs, so you make changes. But it is awful when you go after some of the people who are in the lowest strata, whose methods of operation cannot and should not be able to affect you in any negative way. That is bordering on the side of victimization and spite, and and I think there has been too much of that in the first year, and not enough of the programs to move us forward as a country and as a people.
All right, understandable. Now, folks would say you as we move along in this, you've been a former Minister of Agriculture, and I'm sure it's always been a passionate ministry of yours. I guess I also understand you listen to a bit of farming.
Well, I still do. It is really my love.
No, tell me, what's your take on agriculture as a whole in Grenada today?
Let me start.
And how do you feel about the present administration, their attitude towards it?
Let me start by saying agriculture is important to us as a country.
Yes.
As a third world economy, as a developing state, as a small island. But it has always had its own struggles. In many of the more advanced jurisdictions, the countries that has made great strides in the agricultural sector, one, they have moved greatly into secondary products, the transformation of the raw materials that they produce into secondary products, or as we oftentimes say, into value added. Yes? And we have started that to a certain extent here. Fine example, Grenada Cocoa Association, moving from just selling our raw cocoa beans, the primary product, into now making chocolate, which has a higher value added in many different ways, because now you provide employment for people who work in the factory, but the end product is much more costly and more valuable than the primary product. So until we can do more of that, we would always be a struggling economy as agriculture is concerned. But more importantly, in some of the like I said, the more advanced jurisdiction, they have been subsidizing heavily the farmers in different ways. We do a lot of subsidy here in Grenada, and it continues. But I oftentimes believe, and I've said so even during my period as the Minister of Agriculture, our subsidies, I believe, are channeled down the wrong lane at times, and people take for granted that gets. So, for example, farmers in Grenada all enjoy 100% concession on an appropriate type of vehicle, meaning a pickup or something. I'm not going to get the concession to buy a luxury car or so. And I'm not saying that is bad. I'm not saying it's not important. You have, for example, at the propagation station, Maribo being the main one, but you have Ashenden and you have Maran and Boulogne and so where you propagate the plants. All of these plants, we sell them at subsidized price to the farmers. Yes, so you can walk in. I don't know the exact price today, but I know immediately after Hurricane Ivan, you would walk into the propagation station and pay $1 for a cocoa plant. A cocoa plant that will cost the government between $50 and $20 to produce. So it's highly subsidized. Yes, nutmegs were given free immediately after the hurricane, and to a certain extent up to today, the prices are between $2.50 or down. My point is that you spend all of this money to produce the plant, you give it at a subsidized price to the farmers. But how the corresponding production works out for years, instead of we increase productivity in some of those areas, we've seen decreased production. So I'm saying what you give up front here, you're not getting it back here. As a matter of fact, there are several farmers who would take hundreds of plants because it is cheap, it is subsidized, and never plant half of them year after year. So that subsidy is being wasted. So some people say, well, government isn't subsidizing enough. Maybe they need to subsidize more. But remember, we have a small economy and we have competing needs for the little resources. I'm saying we need to channel it differently. We need to try use the subsidies in a different way. Yes? So in the long and short, it will take time, it will take new and innovative ideas, and it will take money to transform agriculture. However, though, I was a little disappointed with the budget for agriculture. There's been several cuts. I've been listening to people who are in the sector, and I'm talking now people at the ministerial level and so, with a lot of complaints that materials are not being provided on a timely basis to do what they have to do. But I believe it needs more than that. It needs a quantum shift. It needs more money, but it also needs policy changes for agriculture. And I'm not blaming just this administration. It's something that we needed to start doing long before. To a certain extent, in previous governments, we have done some diversification. We have moved away a bit from the traditional crops of just cocoa, nutmeg, bananas. As a matter of fact, we have lost the preferential treatment on the European market a very long time now for our bananas. So we don't even ship bananas over again. But even local consumption, we sometimes can't supply. There's regional markets that would take bananas from us. But farmers are not motivated enough. And we do have the invasive species of yellow sikatoka and black sikatoka that affect our bananas. But we have been able to move into soursop, for example, as another crop that is doing well. We still have an export market. We still remain the only country in the world that can export fresh raw soursop to the United States. Most other countries who can grow more soursop than us, Brazil, for example, they can only export secondary products. Yes, so we have some niche markets going for us. Our fishing, which is part of can add to the agriculture. We need to develop. We have some longliners. We have some people. Most of them are from Sister Isles, Carriacou, and Pitimartin that go out for a couple of days and catch our tunas, the bluefin and yellowfin and so. But we need to develop that and advance it so we can get more out of it. There's also the issue of transportation for bringing our agricultural products out. The sugar wrapper, which is a product in line with the soursop, is doing very well also in the international market. So we need to push that. But our farmers need to be incentivized. They need to also to understand that it is not only the role of government to cause us to do well. Chickens. There are quite a number of chicken farmers in Grenada, but because of the price of our feed and the quality of it, our farmers are barely breaking even, and so they have to sell at a higher price than the imported chicken. So again, this is another area that government needs to look at and see what they can do to cause our farmers to do better in those areas. I've been talking to a lot of the butchers, and they're saying now small ruminants is a big problem. Goat. A pound of goat meat now in the market is $15 because they just can't supply. Sometimes for weeks you go to the market and say, I feel like a piece of mutton. They tell you, forget that. We can't even get one to buy. Cattle, pigs. So there's room The areas where the market is available, the cost to get in, GDP, and so I know under the previous administration, money was placed there to assist people who wanted to get into those things. Whether there is money is now available or not, I am not too sure, and so I don't want to go into that area, but I hope the government is looking at that. And even when people get the money, the hand-holding period is not long enough. They are not being taught how to keep good records, how to determine whether they are making progress or not, they're making a profit or not, and things like that. Are they managing the farm properly? So we need people, for government to put people in those positions to do the hand-holding, even when someone gets a developmental loan and is getting into those areas. So there's a lot that needs to happen in agriculture still.
Right. Now, the MNIBD battle, I don't think I've ever heard you spoke on it before.
No.
What's your take on the whole issue?
I didn't speak on it because I think, to me, it's what I would refer to as an oxymoron. You know, sometimes we say something is a bittersweet moment. Yeah. It's like that to me. In fact, and credit must be given where credit is due, the marketing board was struggling financially and otherwise. Some bad decisions was made before. There were some bad management practices. You know, everything was not done as it should have been, and I think we deviated over the years a bit too far away from what the founding fathers really meant, meaning the people who started the marketing board, what they really created it for. We have deviated, and nothing is wrong in changing, and I don't want people to think that I am condemning the changes that have been made. Once something is being done for the better, but until and unless you satisfy the foundational reasons why you're doing something, they need to branch out into other areas, may affect in a negative way what you were set up for immediately. I sort of feel bad that the government had to close it down in the way they did. There was a lot of talk about reorganizing and bringing it back in a different way. I'm not hearing much of that these days. So while I had some hope that we were going to see a better system reorganized, and I didn't think it was absolutely necessary to close it down to restructure it. The restructuring could have taken place, and so doing you would have been able to save jobs of the people who are employed and probably increase jobs down the line. But once you close down, it means that these people had to be paid off or whatever and go home. So I am not particularly happy with the way in which it had happened, but I do know and understand that the marketing board needed some restructuring. They needed, to get a new life. I don't agree with the way in which that new life was brought about, because what you did actually, you killed them totally and decided to bring up a new life, and we're not hearing who is doing it. Where's the planning taking place? What was the last conclusion you came to from since the marketing board was closed? I have not heard anything official from the powers to be as to what they're doing, where they're going, how far have we reached with the planning, when can we see a reopening of, if you don't want to call it marketing board, whatever name you're giving it, where the farmers can rest assured that now I have an outlet for my products, for my produce, you know? All these questions are still unanswered, so I don't believe it was done correctly.
All right. Now, keeping on the topic line of this segment on agriculture, tell me, you did a lot to initiate, in terms regarding Pretty Alasani. What's your take on it today?
I am not sure if there is still a Pretty Alasani task force existing. Maybe there is. I did a lot. I pushed a lot. I tried new initiatives. We even got some vehicles, which was one of the problems that the task force had. We had several meetings. We got equipment for them, boots and flashlights and raincoats and other things, trying to make them as comfortable as possible to get the work done. Because Pretty Alasani is not just an issue in Grenada. Throughout the Caribbean, we have had this problem, but I think it was hitting Grenada really hard. As a matter of fact, a study was done, a regional study, which showed that farmers was losing about 30% of their produce through Pretty Alasani. I mean, sometimes based on what it is you produce, 20-25% might be what your markup is on that. And if you're losing 30%, it means that you're losing all of your profit plus some of your capital, some of what you put in. So it was a disincentive for a lot of farmers. A lot of people who had the land space, probably had the time or had the labor, they weren't getting into it because they felt it didn't make sense. I was putting in money and getting nothing back. Whatever I get back couldn't even cover my costs. And so I think it's an area of failure not to be more consistent. We were even moving into and legislation was under consideration for having what we call special courts, pre-elastic courts. Not necessarily in buildings, but you had a judge or two that was going to be appointed to deal strictly with pre-elastic matters, because that's another issue. Even when sometime a perpetrator was caught, it took months and sometimes years for one case to go through the court system. So we wanted to have a sitting in every parish per week. So let's just say, for example, on Mondays, the pre-elastic court was going to meet in St. Patrick's. On Tuesdays, they would be in St. Andrews. On Wednesdays, in St. David's, So for the entire week, you will make the wrong around the country. So a farmer losing his stuff and the culprit being caught didn't have to wait 3 months for judgment or 6 months. Might be the same day or 2 days after, based on which parish he was in. And I don't hear anything about those things. I mean, some people like to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and so sometimes an initiative that was being worked on or taken before get thrown out. But I believe it would make good sense, and it will bring back a sort of a zeal and interest in a lot of farmers if they know, listen, the pre-elastic task force is there to back me, but more importantly, justice is swift, and I think the legal mind sometimes say justice delayed is justice denied. So we don't want to deny justice, we want to do it quickly. All right.
We drew for another break. Let's take it. We're coming right back with much more. And in the next segment, folks, to our viewers and listeners, if you do have a question or two you may like to ask Mr. Bhola, you feel free to do so in the next segment. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back. It's To The Point.
That's going around the globe, so cannot just watch mass and watch my canal, so gone international. That's going around the globe.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. Welcome back to The Point for today, Tuesday, the 27th of June. With me this morning, representing the New National Party, I have Mr. Roland Bhola. I did invite you callers, you listeners and viewers out there. You can call in if you do have a question or two you would like to ask. Feel free to do so. Let's go to the phone line and take our very first caller in this segment. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, GT, and how you do?
I'm doing pretty well.
All right. To my family, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Good morning.
Roland, long time no see, man.
I'm there.
Right. So I want to ask you something. What is your take on? Do you think that the NNP government has been in office for all these years and well supported by the senior citizen, 1,000,000%? Do you think that the NNP government did enough to help the senior citizen? Thank you very much, family. Have a good one.
You have a blessed day as well. And to answer your question, saying whether they did enough or not is a very relative thing. Enough for one person differs to a next. Yes? Enough for one person may be, if I get a roof over my head, I have enough. Enough for another person may be a roof plus public assistance. Enough for another one may be a roof, public assistance, and somebody, as we had the caregivers, to come to my home because I don't have any other help. So it's not a question that can be answered with a yes or no. I think the NNP did well. There have been areas where they could have improved and done much better, and in some areas some people are satisfied and others wasn't. So we have to it's a work in progress. Things like that is something that you constantly have to be making improvement to continue to listen and understand what's happening and what the cries of the people are and try to deal with it.
Okay, we do have another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much. Morning, Mr. Bhola. Thank you very much, Steve. And I must say, I can't be too rough on you in any case because as a minister, when you were Minister of Agriculture, I enjoyed myself in my land. I must say, the roads, they were well taken care of, and I used to do very well, and drive to go there and come back and whatnot. I must say that. I have my other problems anyway, because the length of time it's all went there, and I know much more could have been done. At the same time, what I had experienced was sometimes just before the election, after, I noticed that the road workers where I am, that took off completely. It was about probably 3 months before election, and I wondered why. To this day, it still took off. And I've been begging them, this present Minister of Agriculture has more or less, I would say, surprised me or disappointed me to a point. I mean, he's talking a lot, yes, but I need to see more action. But I must compliment you, man. I must compliment you. And not so much the NNP team, but you as Minister of Agriculture. So, I want to wish you all the very best. I mean, at this moment, I'm suffering with a disability, not born in the food pit, working as a farmer all of my life. I'm proud, because God present disease, may the good Lord make my soul as much as his own. He got me angry because when he spoke about the nutmeg price, I confronted him forcefully on the said road to my lands, where my lands are located. And this goodly gentleman told me government doesn't own any lands inside there, so he will not be interested. And then he came back and he gave me some funny words. As a farmer, selling over 2,000 pounds of nutmeg annually. And when I asked the man to increase the price in nutmeg, because at that time, the Nutmeg Association was flourishing. And I still believe they are flourishing right now. But, the goodly gentleman said, no, that will increase. I said, oh, man, foolish man. Figure the people scholars, you stop in GPS and not so all these sort of accolades behind your name and what. And you telling me that? I said, listen, if you increase the price of nutmeg, the farmers will go to their lands more often at the nutmeg, so there's no way to have time get in there. But I must thank you for the pre-Dalasini show because I made him song some goats and whatnot. I did have my problems with cows and whatnot. I did get sick and whatnot. So I must thank you very much. So have a good day, sir. I want to. Bye, guys.
You have a good day. Thank you for your commendation, and of course, we all hope and pray that whatever the issues that are out there, there'd be some kind of solution to it.
All right. We do have another caller. Let's go over to the line and say good morning to the caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning to you and to your guests. Just a question to begin with. Mr. Bhola, is the marketing board really closed? I know I went to the outlet at Grand Anse as recent as Friday, and I got all my stuff. I think that they still open the Park House. I think some outlets are closed. Well, the ridiculous one in Grenville, of course, that went, and that's what brought them down. I don't know what is the reason for having that one in the first place. You lost your way, as you did admit. But talking about victimization, I am the poster child for the victimization in this country. I can give you only three I'll give you examples of me being victimized. There was a utility, there was a statutory board that wanted to do a certain project. They went everywhere, and everybody sent them back to me. I came back, they came to me, I assist them in doing the terms of reference for the project and the scope. Obviously, when they invited about 5 of us, I ended up at the top, where the other people had no clue. Because Grenlake sent them to me, Flo sent them to me because I was the person who had that experience. I was at the top. Then they asked, when they went to the next meeting, the chairman said, how do you get the people? They said, well, the regular means. We send it out to 3 or 4 consultants. They said, no, go and advertise it. You know, they advertised it. And I did not even make the shortlist the second time around. I was not even given an acknowledgement of my application, of my expressions of interest, when I had to do the terms of reference, you know. And when you can ask Terry Forrester, he said he was given instructions from higher up who to give, and that person is not even a consultant. I hope they didn't pay them more than what I was asking for. Another case in point. That project they called GREP and MAREP, I was the one who did the review of GREP, right? I did all the projects, all the photographs of the projects, I did a review. When MAREP came, there was a project. Mr. Campbell sent me a letter saying to me, there is not any proof that I know enough of the organization. I did a review of the predecessor, and there is not the evidence that I know I have enough experience in household surveys in Grenada. And at that time, I was doing more than everybody else put together. A ridiculous excuse. There's another one when they were doing the first constitution reform. Dr. Alexis called me and he asked me. I submitted a proposal. I gave them 50% off. I said it's a labor of love. Constitutional reform is important. I gave to them at a half price. We signed the contract. Then the big man comes and he said, who gave this man this work? And with a kind of grin, I was told. Everybody started to scamper. Mr. Branch, Dr. Alexis, everybody free to talk to me. I signed the contract. I was entitled to money. I just calmly walked away, even from what I was entitled to, after giving them a 50% discount because I didn't want to make money on it. So if you want examples of victimization, talk to me. So I don't know what kind of moral authority and grounds you people have for saying the things that you are saying. It makes me want to puke. Makes me sick. Have a good day, Mr. Bhola. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope you have a very good day as well. All I would respond to you and say is that if you have examples of occasions when you were victimized, as you have put it, while the NNP administration was in office, I am sorry about that. I know it must have been a painful thing for you, but that doesn't make it right, or that doesn't give credence to the present administration to victimize other people. Because if you are crying about the way you were victimized, as you've said, imagine what is happening to those who have been victimized now. So, 2 wrongs never make it right, my brother. We always need to do better than our predecessor.
All right. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning, and you're welcome to the point. Good morning. Make your comment, please.
Mr. Tellisford, good morning, and Mr. Bhola, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Bhola, you of all persons, knowing you, knowing about you, you should be ashamed to come on the radio this morning on GBN to say all the things you say. You're a slick talker, but you're also a slick liar. Have a good day.
Thank you, my dear. If that's how you interpret it, you are welcome with your opinion and you are entitled to it.
All right, let's entertain another caller before we move on. Good morning to you, caller.
Hello.
Good morning, caller. Go ahead, please.
That's sweet lemon to Mr. Bhola. Mr. Bhola, I'm asking you, you have stated a lot of irregularities that are occurring now. I do know from my observation in the past and even now that a lot of wrong things have been done by your party or the party you support. I don't know why you're supporting it, but you are supporting either for you to get some benefit or because naturally you support it. Anyhow, I cannot see how the past government has done so much. Maybe they have done so much to the extent that they might have left a lot of money in the treasury. That's the only how I could say they do well, you know. If you have a lot of reserve fund for the people of Grenada, if it doesn't have reserve fund, then I cannot say they did well. As far as I know, long ago I heard they said, because of perhaps ruling the country, somebody has millions of dollars in their funds. We love the country so much, or that particular person loved the country over. What sort of a industry? I know you have, I guess, or I heard that you have lands. So you have a right to want to develop agriculture. Now, what sort of a industry did that maybe your co-leader or your leader has done to help the poor, suffering people in Grenada, including myself? Now, even though a lot of things are happening, I know you cannot stop it. Because of the training the youth have got, they are hacking. Some of them are hacking people's money, especially poor, humble, I wouldn't say age, old people, feeble people. Money is out of the bank, and maybe pretty close to certain authorities are doing it, and maybe they're getting away cash free. Now I want you to comment on what I've asked you. You have lands. You're talking about stealing. Now, what did you all do to prevent people or to lessen the amount of stealing going on in Grenada? Did you all try to educate the people? Now, a lot of us believe education is only reading and writing and able to speak nice words or to persuade the people. But education should be involved people to grow. Growth we need, growth all around development. That's why I tell this government, this present one, transformation means you have to make a big circle and transfer people how they think, how they work, or how they've been educated, and so on and so on. If you want comment.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution there. Any response to the caller, Mr.
Nothing much but to say to the caller, I did explain what we did and what we were attempting to do as it relates to pre-Elastny and, you know, to encourage people to get back into farming and so. So if you didn't hear that, I'm sorry, but I did deal with the pre-Elastny issue before.
Okay. We do approximately 5 minutes left on the show. Let's take another caller. Caller, good morning and you're welcome.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Not bad, sir. Go right ahead with your contribution, please.
Morning, Mr. Bhola.
Morning to you, sir.
Right. Mr. Bhola, I have a question to ask you, and I need an answer, please. I need you to give me the answer, please. Mr. Bhola, the shares in cable and wireless, since they sell out the shares, we as the people who purchase the shares have not 1 God cent back. The electricity, when Grenada used to go into darkness, Grenadian buy shares into it. And up to this day, we don't get what they're saying. We not qualify for shares. When we already they already take we money, which is the past government, the ex-Prime Minister, and Mr. Bouin. Take our money. and involve it into this. And up to this day, we don't get in any way. And then talking about poor and vulnerable. Is this right and fair for the people who spend the money, the thousands of people who spend the money to be in that condition? Please tell me, please. I'd like to know.
Just hold on before you go. I just want a little clarity. Are you there still?
Yes, I did.
When you say the former Prime Minister and Mr. Bowen took your money, you're talking about government money or your personal money?
I'm talking about the shares in the telephone company.
So that's
wireless. When
in the country.
Listen to me, please. When they sell out the shares in Cooperative Bank and Grenadian bought it, when they sell out the shares in electricity, when Grenadian used to go in darkness and Grenadian bought the shares, and up to this day, we are not getting anything and says we're not qualified. So at the time when we're buying the shares, they didn't know we didn't qualify to get the shares. Why today they can't tell us a thing? Up to now, nobody can know what we're not able.
All right, caller, we'll give us a chance to answer your question. Let's go right ahead.
Well, it's an answer that I cannot give, because if people bought individual shares in private companies, because cable and wireless, now Grenlec is government owned again, because government bought it back a couple years ago, but it was a private company with government having some shares in it. And if individuals have bought shares, then they have a right to whatever share capital that is being shared. And if you are being told that, then it's a question that must go to the board, or you should seek legal advice, because I'm not absolutely sure why you would be told that you're not qualified. If I am a shareholder, irrespective to how many shares that I have in any company, at the end of the year, if dividends are being shared, I am entitled to a certain amount based on my investment in the company. So I'm really not too sure what the caller is referring to. So, but what I would advise is, if you have an issue like that, maybe seek some legal advice.
All right, let's take another caller before we wrap. Good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Bhola. I want to say that your being on the point is very informative, and especially when I heard you talk about justice for the farmers in terms of the court and so on regarding the Purdue larceny. And I hope that our senator in the represented farmers will take those issues and continue to lobby for the farmers in this country. And also, Mr. Bhola, I want to tell you, good work, keep it up. But I want to say to the NNP, whenever they're going on the program, if they're going to be embarrassed like that, I will have to tell them, don't go. Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a blessed day, caller. I don't consider the questions or the comments as being embarrassing. I mean, some of us do have control over what we do and say. Others, we like every opportunity we can get to, say things that are not particularly nice to other people. But it's okay. That's part of the game.
We could entertain another caller before we take a wrap this morning. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. I wasn't listening to the whole of the program, but I heard a caller call about. Good morning.
Caller, would you mind lowering your radio or television in the background? Okay. It's causing a bit of distraction for you.
Caller, call and talk about shares in Grenlec and the other company. But I know from since the time we bought shares from Grenlec, every quarter we get our dividends. So I'm not sure if that caller is being paid to call and say what he's saying, or he doesn't know what he's saying. But that is so not true. It's only now we're not getting the dividends. But we used to get dividends every 3 quarters, 3 times a year, regardless of the amount of shares you have. I have shares, my husband has shares, and I know a lot of Grenlec workers have shares, and other persons have shares. So what that caller saying is not the truth. These callers must be careful when they call in and speak on truth. I think some of these callers are being paid to say what they're saying. Have a blessed day. Mr. Bhola, keep up the good work.
Thank you, my dear.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Mr. Bhola, we get into that stage of the morning. Any final comment you want to make before we take a wrap this morning?
Well, of course, JT. I want to first of all thank GBN again and for giving the opposition an opportunity. And thank the party for inviting me to be the person here this morning to be scrutinized. I thank all the callers, those who ask questions and those who just try to say something because they felt they had to. But I do believe as a small island, as a country looking to get out of where we are and hoping to get into a better place, that all of us as citizens of the state will recognize that we have a role to play. Whether we support who is in government or who is in opposition or whatever our political preferences may be, we have to understand Grenada is compared to the rest of the world, a handful of people. And whatever one person does will affect another. And the fact of the matter is that we are interrelated in some way, most of us in this country. If we really decide to dig into our roots, we will recognize how our roots are entwined one with another. And to say, based on what I've heard from callers this morning, look, whatever your experience may be before, wrong will always be wrong. So if you was victimized or you felt you was robbed in the wrong way before, doing it now to another person doesn't make it right. And at some point we have to start to recognize that only good will help our country. Yes, irrespective of which side of the fence you're on. So once again, thanks to the listeners and the callers, and I do hope that from what we've done this morning that at least some good may have come out of it.
All right. I want to take a time to thank you also to Mr. Bhola for being on the program. Of course, a pleasure to have you. And I certainly hope we could do this again sometime in the near future. Hey, folks, that's where we come to the end of To The Point for today. Thanks all who contributed some way or the other, whether it's by your phone calls or you've listened and you contribute some way or the other. Thank you once again. Have yourself a great day. Join us again for another edition of To The Point. That's where I say goodbye for today.